Recording. Thank you and good evening. I'm very pleased to be given the opportunity to talk about something I'm enthusiastic about, which is the Gloucestershire-Warwickshire Steam Railway, where I'm a volunteer. I'm a volunteer in the steam department and a trainee fireman. I was a driver and a fireman at another railway and am now working my way back up onto the footplate. The subject is the Gloucestershire-Warwickshire Railway. I propose to do it in two parts. Conventionally, the first part will be the story of the whole line, why it was built, how long it took, what was involved. And then the second is a really close-up view of Peninsular and Oriental Steam Navigation Company Limited locomotive, Merchant Navy locomotive number 35006, on which I perform maintenance. I'm one of the maintenance gang on P&O. To assist me in the talk, I have a variety of publications. You will be all aware of that one, I'm sure, the pre-grouping atlas. A more recent acquisition is this fella, which is an illustrated history of the line. And I sought the permission of the publishers a couple of days back to use some of the photographs in there, and they were very surprised that I'd found a copy, because it's been out of print for really quite some time. But they were quite happy that I should use the stuff. And then I've got this, which is all about the Merchant Navy. This, in fact, is more about clan line, but it's identical, in many respects, identical to our Chuff Chuff. So, on that basis, I will press go. I do like that sparkly bit. That always is jolly fine. The Gloucestershire-Warwickshire Railway is on the track bed of the former railway that ran between Stratford-on-Avon and Cheltenham. You should all be able to see the cursor, which I'm waggling around on the left-hand side of your screen. And I'm going to now put it around to Honeybourne, which is there. Stratford-on-Avon is up there. And the line comes down, or came down. Whoopsie, didn't mean to do that. All right, well, it comes. This is where a trigger finger is really, really tedious. It comes down through Long Marston, which is still there, of course, to Honeybourne, Witton's Underedge, and then to Broadway. Now that is the northernmost extension of our existing railway. Down through Leverton Halt, which doesn't exist anymore, to Toddington, which is our engineering headquarters, round the bend to Winchcombe, through the tunnel there at Greet, to Gretton Halt, which doesn't exist, Gotherington, which does exist, Bishop's Cleeve, which doesn't, and then Hunting Butts Tunnel is on the outskirts of Cheltenham, and on this particular map, which is 1926, I believe, Racecourse Station, which is our southernmost station, isn't on there, but it's where I'm waggling now. The Cotswold Escarpment runs along to the east of pretty well the whole line, comes right the way down like that, and that's why we've had to go. Why the line goes round there. It hugs the escarpment, or it hugs the level of the escarpment there, and so on. The work began in November 1902. The first sod was cut in November, and work actually started in spring 1903. And the first job was to dig a tunnel or a bridge, but a small tunnel, under the Great Western Main Line, the old Worse and Worse here, the Oxford and Worcester line, which goes from east to west here. And the first job, as I say, was to construct this bridge under the Great Western. The line from Stratford came down there, but I'm talking purely about the line from Honeybourne south. A number of structures were built at around about the same time before work on the actual track bed started. And this is the viaduct at Stanway, sometimes called, well, in the old book, it's called Winchcombe Viaduct and also Laverton Viaduct. It goes by a variety of names. At the moment, we call it Stanway Viaduct. And it runs north to south on a slight curve, as we're looking at it there. It's a slight left-hander on a rising gradient going south of 1 in 150. It's among the steepest bits of gradient. What is significant about this photograph is these bits here, and you'll observe a certain amount of rubble there, because the arch on Friday the 13th of November, 1903, arch number 10, which is the first one here, collapsed. And in doing so, it brought down a 14-ton steam crane. And that is its boiler. It's a vertical fire tube boiler, similar to one that is currently out of operation, but at Didcot. It's a vertical fire tube boiler, 14-ton, probably made in Leeds, but I really don't know that. No sooner had that one come down than the next one did, and then the next one. And the driver of the crane managed to scramble free. He rescued someone and put him in under the next arch, which promptly collapsed. And those other two collapsed as well. A total of about 13 people were severely damaged, and I think 4 were killed. Anyway, irrespective of the numbers, a fair amount of damage was done. And of course, there was an inquiry. It found that, bearing in mind this was November, the arch, the brickwork there had been completed, and then the shoring, the timber shoring was taken away before the mortar had set properly. And the vibration of all that falling down had the same effect on the other 3 arches. All a bit of a mess, really. But that's what it looks like now, with Foremark Hall proudly going north across it. It's really quite an imposing structure. Last December, the track was lifted across it completely. The ballast was taken out and all the drainage was rectified. That was occasioned by a brick falling from one of the arches, and I think it was at this end. It wasn't a structural, well, it was a structural failure for the brick, but a subsequent investigation revealed that there was no real problem to the whole structure. Nevertheless, it did reveal that there were problems with the drainage, and so the opportunity was taken of the closed period to sort it. Let's now go to Winchcombe. The way that the railway was built was largely by manual labor, navvies, teams of navvies, but there was also a number of these steam navvies, this jobby here. And all that area along there has been dug out by the steam navvy. It's all on a radius there. That's all radiized. That's a word and a half, which I've never used before. Pure Great Western Buildings, that's which we still have now. That's the old goods shed at Winchcombe, and we still have that. That's our carriage and wagon depot there. But you can see it's on a reasonable curve there. And an enormous tree was removed from there. I mean, look at the side. There's say a 6-foot man. And that's a good 12 foot across. That's an enormous tree, or was an enormous tree. Astonishing. That is how Winchcombe Station looks now. A very, very nice, slightly touched photograph. 2 signals guarding that end. The starting signals. The section signal is further round. There's a junction signal there for trains coming towards us. And that's our TPO van, what was. And there's a gunpowder van there as well, which isn't loaded. Here is looking the other way at Winchcombe. I mentioned a tunnel at Greet, and this is that's the preparations for the tunnel to be built. It's just around the corner. The entrance will be about there. But you can see here how this navvy, there are 2 navvies there. There's one down there and one up there. The navvies are clearing the line, and this, or clearing the earth away. And this one is building a roadway for use in getting that lot off that face, rather than using the contractors' rails or tracks, which are down there, which are all being used, which are being filled from there and from here. They'll use a separate rail and road up there. All this is now beautifully smooth, as you would expect. In terms of the tunnel, this is the southern entrance of Greet Tunnel. The plans showed that it would be 375 yards long, and in fact it ended up being 693 yards long. The reason for that is that the track bed was lower than anticipated by the time they got to Winchcombe, and therefore that meant that the tunnel had to be lower and therefore longer. Originally, according to Audie Baker, the author of the book I mentioned earlier, there was going to be a very large cutting here, but the local landowners didn't like the idea of a large cutting interrupting their view with occasional wisps of steam, so a tunnel was agreed upon. You can see here also that there was a horse and 2 chaps, one holding up a wagon of some sort, and the horse attending to the horse. But it's a very solid structure, and these timber bulks are of extraordinary strength. Looking from the inside, that's what it looks like. We're looking now out towards where that photographer was. This is a vehicle we have for conducting surveys inside the tunnel. And this curve, which you notice is ever so slightly flattened there, they clearly got something just ever so slightly adrift. That curvature goes right the way down underneath the track bed. So it's not a flat surface under the ballast there. It goes right the way down underneath there. It's a big, big structure. 6 or 8 courses of bricks all the way around. And so far as I'm aware, we have not had any issues with it at all. And I'll find some wood to touch straight away. On the southern portal, it looks like that. And this is a visiting engine, Small Prairie 262, which was visiting a while ago, bursting out of the southern portal. I'm so sorry. Yes, the southern portal. Again, there's a rising gradient going this way through the tunnel. And I have to say that when you're in there and you've got an 8-coach train fully loaded, the noise in the tunnel of the exhaust is really very, very impressive. And if you've got 2 locos, as we do occasionally on galas, it's very, very nice noise. Very, very nice noise. We had the King there last year, 6023. And we put the King and 4-mark together. The exhaust of a modified hall is like gunshots. and the single chimney king is also gunshots. So it was a very, very impressive sound. We'll now go to the next station down the line, which is Gotherington. This is taken on opening day in around 19... Why do notes just rewrite themselves at a moment's notice? In the region of 1904, sometime like that. This building is still standing. You see it's faced in Cotswold stone, signal box down there. We've had to rebuild the signal box. In fact, we moved it further on because now it looks like this. And you'll note that the track is lifted there, not by that chap, but there's the track is lifted there. And this is now a private residence. Fortunately, it's owned by a railway enthusiast who's got all these wagons and things. And in fact, over on the left-hand side there, he's got an open-air museum of sorts. Whether he is open to having people wandering in and looking, I simply don't know. I suspect he does on galas and open days, but we don't use this platform. We don't use that platform. Now, although we don't go there, I found this diagram really quite interesting. This is 1905 Cheltenham, the main town, or the site of Cheltenham St James's, which is there, and the gasworks, which was there. That's now Tesco's. And that's, is that Malvern Road? Right, yes, there's a station there, which is Malvern Road. The buildings there are still there. There's a depot there called Malvern Road Depot. And Lansdowne, Cheltenham Lansdowne, is further down off the bottom corner. But it shows here, this is the plan of the track going through Cheltenham town. The main town is off to the right. And these are the mighty, these are the foaming waters of the mighty River Chelt going through here, from which the town gets its name. It's a stream about 6 foot wide at its maximum, but occasionally it gets really cross and floods the place. Cheltenham St James's opened in 1908. It was renamed, it was simply known as Cheltenham, but then it was renamed Cheltenham St James's in 1908. And this is what it looked like. But you'll see here that there were houses all the way along the route, roads which had to be demolished. People were rehoused elsewhere. I think, the GWR and the council between them, the town council, built houses to rehouse the people whose houses were knocked down. This chord here in dots was a proposed chord, which would have been really, really sensible, but it was never built. So trains coming south, going to St James's, which they did, went down into Malvern Road, into a bay in Malvern Road, and then reversed and went back up into the station. And similarly, those were going north from St James's came down and reversed and then went back up. Wyman's Brook is still there, and the line curves around to the right above this area and goes through Hunting Butts Tunnel and then off to the racecourse. Racecourse is off up to the right there. But I found that of interest. Social story. The line was first, or the motive power that was first used was the steam rail motor, which were first, they were just coming on stream in 1908. And, sorry, 1904. They were started being built and they then stopped being built in 1908. And this is a picture of one taken at Toddington. And this is a picture of one taken at Southall in East London, or east of London. This is the Great Western Society's steam rail motor. And you can see here what it looks like. You've got essentially it's a wooden bodied carriage with a fire at one end. That's the power unit, four-wheel power unit. That's the driving compartment from this end. There is a physical connection from the regulator which is in there, and there's a regulator rod which goes, a push rod which goes underneath all the way outside and then comes up into the driving vestibule at that end. So although the driver can start and stop the vehicle from that end, he can't change the cutoff, for example. So the fireman's job is not only to keep the fire going and keep the water level up, but also to alter the cutoff appropriately. So he has to know the road even more than he might do as a fireman. It's outside wall sheets, valve gear, slide valves, and altogether a very, very nice bit of kit. This was on a weekend a few years back when it was running between Southall and somewhere else. Can't think where, it doesn't really matter. But there's a whole story. I can do a talk on this vehicle, should it be of interest. But the story that I will tell will finish a couple of years ago. And so far as I'm aware, not much has happened since then. Other locos which use the rail or the line in later years were Britannias, such as this. This is going past Bishop's Cleeve, or the site of Bishop's Cleeve station. The signal box is still there, and again faced in Cotswold stone. Really, really nice. It's the only one that was, as far as I'm aware. But I'm open to correction, Philip. From time to time, I will call on Philip for info, because he's been a member far longer than I have and knows.
I'm afraid I've no idea, Peter. In fact, I didn't realise it was still there.
No, the signal box is gone and the station is gone. Which is a great shame. Great shame. What else? Oh yes, here we are. This is your archetypal Western shot of a little 240 tank engine with one coach, probably auto. Yes, it will have been auto fitted, so that this formation of train came after the rail motor. And this is arriving at Hales Abbey Halt, or Hales Halt, Hales Abbey. No, it's just Hales Abbey. It's a halt called Hales Abbey. It's a wooden construction, wooden and brick construction, and we have recreated it. But this is an old photograph. It's sited between Toddington and Winchcombe. So it's to the north, well, it's all to the north of Cheltenham. Hales Abbey was created in about the 10th or 11th century, and I think there's a building still there. It was, yeah. And then there's a beautiful castle class bringing a Cornishman. It was the only named train to come down the line, the Cornishman, and that's coming through the site of Cheltenham Racecourse Station. In fact, yes, it's just passing the distant for Cheltenham Racecourse Station. Probably doing between 50 and 60 miles an hour. Oh, heaven, just heaven. And just a haze from the chimney there. Oh, that's just great, isn't it? Eh? I start waxing lyrical now. It's not a soapbox, it's a bath. It's wonderful. Just nice warm water. Beautiful. But I did my train spotting around about this time, which is the early 60s. And that's how I remember Castle. That's how I remember most steam locos. They were just grubby, but still went like a dingbat. And then latterly, there were these diesel rail cars, 55 class, 55,000 class, running a service between Leamington Spa and Gloucester. For people wanting to escape from Leamington Spa or wanting to escape from Gloucester. And then in 1976, in August 1976, came a derailment. It was a coal train derailment, and was really quite violent. The amount of energy expended in getting that bit of rail to do that was high. But what this had the effect of was to close the line. It had been reduced in service or reduced in use for some time before 1976 and was still used for out-of-gauge loads and such as that. But BR had downgraded it and downgraded it. And this gave them the excuse, no, it gave them a good reason to declare that it was no longer a viable thing, a viable operation to keep going, and so they closed it. No sooner had they closed it than they pulled up all the platforms. This is the view looking south at Winchcombe in about 1979, 1980. This is the site of the platform here, 2 platforms. And the first thing they did was to just take all the coping stones up. And then if there were buildings which were not particularly good, they got rid of those as well. But for some reason they left Winchcombe and they pulled up Broadway and they pulled up everywhere, really everywhere except, I think I'm going to get this right, everywhere except, yes, except Toddington, really. That is the same view today. And we've re-established the canopy. We've re-established the platforms. This is platform 1, platform 2, looking south. And that's the Cotswold Escarpment going round and over to the left there. This is looking the other way, up looking north. That's the road. That's the bridge of the road going to Stowe from Tewkesbury. And the same view again, now that the platforms have been reinstated, the buildings refurbished, the footbridge recreated and reinstalled. And it's all volunteer labour. It's all volunteer labour. The line was closed in 76, and in 1984, the first volunteer train ran. Not very long, but it didn't go very far, but it was still running. We were operating a public service. In terms of what we're faced with when we arrive, this is Winchcombe. And that is the road to Evesham from Winchcombe, and therefore from Cheltenham as well. Not the main Evesham road, but it's the you can get to Evesham by going across that. North is off to the left, and this is the site of Winchcombe Station. That's the before, and that's the after. With, as I mentioned, the travelling post office van there. We don't do TPO exchanges, not yet. I don't. Well, it would be nice to do so, but I don't suppose we will. But it's a museum. It's a little. I think it's a model railway there. I think it's there. But we reinstated the footbridge and the buildings, rebuilt the buildings. It's a lot of work, but it's just so worth it when you run over the line. Let me tell you the story.
Peter, can I just say that station building on at Winchcombe actually came from Monmouth Troy. It was taken down brick by brick and rebuilt by volunteers. So it's not actually a true Great Western station because the entrance to it for the public is through the middle of the building, whereas at Toddington, which is a true Great Western station, you get in from the side.
Yeah. Thank you. This is Broadway Station in about 1967. Looking north, and Broadway town is off to the right. and it's just a station. But then when we arrived, this is what it looked like. Much the same story as at Winchcombe, just the track bed completely overgrown. When the GWSR was formed in the early 80s, what we did was to buy the track bed from Cheltenham, from Hunting Butts Tunnel, from the southern portal of Hunting Butts Tunnel, up to just beyond Broadway. So we own all the track bed. And at this point, I guess we could mention that we have no plans to go further north. We have 900 and odd volunteers, and to run the length of the line that we have is just about the maximum that 900 volunteers can manage. To put another 5 or 6 miles further north would be a huge strain. Timetabling things would be an enormous difficulty. And without wishing to be at all pejorative, there ain't much to see at Honeybourne. And although it would give us a mainline connection, for the purpose of once or twice a year, really, none of our locos is restored to mainline condition. So, and there are, so far as I'm aware, there are no plans to do any of the other locos currently under restoration. I can't see anyone wanting a Great Western 280 to go out on the main line. It just won't happen. It would look wonderful, but it won't going to happen. So we're going to stop at Broadway, and so be it. And again, this is the sort of undergrowth that we had to contend with to get rid of before we relayed the rails. And then when we did, the first thing we did was to recreate the platforms. The town, as I say, is off to the right there. And this is the signal box going up on the left there. And that's an early railroad vehicle of the Range Rover configuration with no rails to run on. We have recreated this Great Western building, station building, with all the waiting rooms and shops and facilities that are required. The outside looks very Great Western. The inside, or the actual construction, will be to modern requirements, Elfin safety requirements. This is looking southeast, and the town is off to the left. We opened a couple of years back, and the effect on the town was marked. They got a lot of extra business there, which at the moment they're doing without, as indeed are we. Happy lockdown too, chaps. And this is the first engineers train to come through on the newly laid track. It's bringing a whole load of sea cows there. That's the the trade name of the ballast wagons. And they're about to start ballasting on the newly laid track. And people are smiling because it's a good day, good day. And then on the first day of public service, P&O was chosen as the loco to perform the first through train to Broadway. Very fine day and a very fine loco, under which we shall go in a little while. In terms of the job that is required to restore a locomotive, this is Great Western 280, I believe it's 2807, 1918 built, as purchased from Woodham's scrapyard in Barry. But no chimney, very little, well, certainly the main motion, the coupling rods are there, but the connecting rod has gone. crosshead is there, but all this asbestos lining stuff there, full of crunchy air, that had to be got rid of. All this cladding is useless. The handrail has been cut there, and there it is dangling down. It's an awful way to leave a loco, a proud loco at that time, 40 or 50 years old. Interesting there, I've just noticed that, the difference in the buffer heights there. Clearly this is way, way up on its springs, or else this is way, way down. I hesitate to offer which is correct. But having effectively about an 18-inch, maybe 1 foot, maybe a 12-inch difference in ride height, although it's on a scrap line, it shows the state of the vehicles. And to go from that to this, I think, is pretty impressive. There are railways all over the country which are doing exactly the same and have done exactly the same. And I take my hats off to all of them. It's a remarkable achievement to get something that was in that previous condition to this state. This photographs is taken at Cheltenham Racecourse Station. The racecourse itself is off to the left, and the wide open area and fields of the Severn Vale off to the right, looking across to the Malvern Hills. It is said if you can see the Malvern Hills, it's going to rain, and if you can't see them, it's raining. But there again, the same is said of many, many hills in this country. And here is Peninsula and Oriental, P&O. I shall stop calling it the full name, although it deserves it because it's a wonderful engine. I shall refer to it henceforth simply as P&O. This is P&O as we found it, as we acquired it. No motion at all. And then that is as it is now. Rebuilt Merchant Navy, 3-cylinder. Beautiful engine. Not built for going 25 miles an hour, built for doing 80 and 90 miles an hour, at which point the superheater is, or superheating is working beautifully. There are very few occasions when the superheating is used on this loco now, but when it is, oh dear, it doesn't half go. Other rolling stock that we have is this 3-car DMU, diesel multiple unit. Curiously, not at all. Full pause button. I used to work in London, and I lived in a place called Maidenhead. And this set used to run between Maidenhead and Paddington, and I used to ride in it. And to have it restored, or have it preserved, I should say, gave me a very strange feeling when I saw it, first of all. Whether it was in this vehicle or not, it doesn't really matter, but I recall one morning going to work, going up to Paddington, and we stopped outside Paddington for some reason. And one of my fellow commuters looked up, put his paper away, stood up, put his hat on, opened the door, and got out, except that we were outside Paddington Station. So he disappeared for a little while, and then with a very sheepish grin, he got back up into it. He went across the other side, opened the door on the other side, and disappeared down that side as well before anyone could stop him. I think it was the last time he did that, but it made for a very unusual start to the day. We also have we have a variety of diesels. There's a class 37 on the left and a class 33 on the right, and we also have a class 56. We also have a class 20 hidden away somewhere. We used to have 2, but one I think has been got rid of. And we have a small cluster of diesel shunters. All of them, I think, are 060s, but all industrial jobbies. These things you just get into, turn a key, and then it makes them go. You haven't got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to light the fire and stand there having cups of tea while it gets warm. These don't enable you to have cups of tea. You just breathe in diesel fumes. There are those who enjoy it. Carriage and wagon do an extraordinary job. We have 4 trains of 8 coaches, one of which is our fish and chip, fish supper train, which doesn't run at the moment. But anyway, this is how our carriage and wagon lads receive the majority of their Mark I stock. This one clearly came from the Scottish region, and it's in a pretty manky condition. The areas that go to the rust moth are where the water comes down and congregates. So around the bottoms there, all the way along the base there of the bodywork, in the eaves along the top there. So effectively, the whole thing has to be taken down to the base and rebuilt. But they are all the same model. So the carriage and wagon lads know what they're about and have got all the templates and such, so that they can do a turnaround in fairly quick order. This is not the same vehicle, but it is a freshly restored vehicle, and that shows the standard to which they are restored. A really very, very nice job. This is the paint shop. I'm told the gentleman in the foreground was a young man when he started painting that line. It's a labor of love, labor of love. This is the difficult, one of the things about doing a Zoom presentation. I've no idea whether there's a gale of laughter that's sweeping across the nation now or not. It's instant feedback is always useful for a speaker.
We're all laughing quietly, Peter.
Oh, thank you very much, Philip. How reassuring. Here's another one, another example. This, I think, is a first class open. And inside it looks like that. Yes, that's the first class open. Really, really nice. We have upholsterers. I don't know if it's filled with horsehair. I don't know that we've got a stable load of horses. I'm pretty sure we haven't. Nevertheless, it's an extremely high standard of restoration. At that, I will pause and take any questions from the first half. If you'd like to ask a question, just unmute yourself. Otherwise, I would propose, it's now 8:15. We can, I will await your call, either Philip or David, I'm sorry, to holler, and we'll start again. I'm ready when you are. Thank you. But I'll take questions now for the first half, certainly.
Any questions, anybody? No?
Yes, sorry. Yes, this is David. You showed the picture of the Bullid in Barry and then in its fantastic restored state.
Yes.
Am I right in thinking you actually used the chassis of a diesel to make a brand new tender? I seem to recollect hearing that many, many years ago.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we did. I believe it was a class, not the, no, we used the axle boxes.
The axle boxes, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a class 40. Class 40 axle boxes. And the axles still go round. It's really handy.
Good. Thank you.
So.
You actually mentioned that the Merchant Navy doesn't use the superheat for 25 miles an hour. Can you actually control whether you've got access to the superheater tubes or not?
Yes, you can, simply by opening the regulator wide and allowing the steam to go through at the highest possible rate. Then it will hit the superheater elements. All the steam goes through the superheater elements. It's just a question of the volume. And that the higher the volumetric need, the greater the superheat, the higher the superheater works. But going at 25 miles an hour, your regulator valve is hardly ever fully open.
Isn't the other problem with doing slow speed, you've got such a large fire bed as well?
No, we just have a very thin fire. It means the fireman has to keep an eye on holes, and in fact that can be a problem. I will show you. I'm very glad you asked that. Actually, I didn't prompt you to ask that one, did I?
No.
Because we have had issues with the fire bars getting burned because the fire is so thin. But if we put a big fire in there, you're just going to be blowing off the whole time. It's a waste of water and fuel. So we have a thin fire spread evenly over the grate.
I sometimes think with preserved lines, it's a shame that more smaller locomotives weren't preserved at Barry.
Oh, I mean, quite, yes.
A lot of lines are running with locomotives that are far too large for the service.
Oh, quite, yes, you're right. But then...
Like the large engines.
Yeah, but put yourself back in the days when you were train spotting, which I suspect you used to.
Yes.
And the glory locos were the big ones. And then the preservation movement started. And it was the big locos that people wanted. They were at the head. No one wanted a little tank engine. They're boring, tiny little things. Little 240 jobbies. No, you want a big 460 because it's the glory boys, and it's rose tinted glasses, and it's going to be perfect for everybody. Excuse me. And so it goes. But in terms of modern day running of a say a 10-15 mile railway, yes, a little tank engine would be the absolutely perfect thing. It just hasn't got the pulling power, so to speak, the crowd pulling power. I have to say that, and I think Philip will back me up on this, when people, no, you tell the tale, Philip.
Yes, I do the admin office about 3 times a month. And when people ring up, they often say, the first thing they say, our train's running today. No, they're not running. They're Tuesday, Wednesday and Saturdays or something like that. When's P&O on? That's the standard question, is when is P&O on? That's the one they want to see. And it's partly because it's so big.
Yeah. The other angle, of course, is that we are not aiming to preserve a particular region or particular railway. We are running a railway service on a bit of track bed which used to carry a line. It happened to have been built by the Great Western, but we are not aiming to recreate the Great Western Railway. We are a preserved railway providing a service with steam and diesel. The majority of our locos are Great Western, but not exclusively.
I would just say that when we build things now, we do try and build them as authentically Great Western as we can. But as far as the rolling stock's concerned, you have to use what you've got.
And we don't have any Great Western rolling stock. It's all BR Mark 1.
Yes.
As you say, working in the admin parts of the time, what proportion would you say on your line now are non-enthusiast visitors, the family visitors, and they, let's face it, are the people who are going to keep these lines financed? The enthusiasts are dying.
Yeah. I can answer that, Peter, if you like. We made a decision, that the commercial director made a decision about 10 years ago that he was going to start marketing towards families. And so he tried to create as many interesting things for families. So that post office van actually contains a very good model railway. And we adapt it. We adapt it to Thomas occasionally, or to Christmas scenes. And we try and make things that we've even got a children's play area. We've got a very good cafe restaurant. And so the railway has made a big effort to get families to come. And of course, the Cotswolds is a holiday area, and it's by and large families that are on holiday there. And so I would say, well, about 50% of the people who come to the railway have been before. We do collect information about whether people have visited before. We ask people to fill in a passenger feedback form. And I would say about 50% of the people who come have been before. When we have a gala, then it's whether it's diesel or steam, it's largely enthusiasts, and that's part of the reason why we do them. We also make a lot of money out of galas, which is handy for the railway. But most of the time, I would say it's difficult to put a proportion on it, but most of the time, probably the enthusiasts is about 30%, that kind of proportion, and 70% will be families.
Well, I think the enthusiast geeks have got to accept that nowadays. I was rather mortified, though, to find that the Great Central has now got one of these walk around people dressed up in a costume as an animal. You know, I mean, I'm not too fond of the World War things either, actually, because if you're going to be authentic, the Germans should be prisoners, not marching around having battles.
Peter, if you'd been on the train when Wonder Woman and the other ones were there, you'd have enjoyed it.
Oh gosh, we've also got very strong connections with local schools, and we inflict gas masks on them, and they have to come around with gas mask things. And
the school evacuation days are extremely popular. Good. The schools have, as part of their curriculum, to provide some information and knowledge about World War II, and they can do it very easily by bringing them to the railway as evacuees, and we charge.
I would approve of that, because that's using the railway directly in education.
Yes.
But the sort of all for all the public type of war event, of which that possibly is part. I don't know. You may do that at other times as well.
We have one wartime.
Yeah.
One wartime weekend, and I have to say, apart from the Steam Gala, it's probably the most popular event that we put on. I mean, it's a very, very big event. But we can't do it
on the Kent-East Sussex Railway.
Yeah.
I well remember the Thomas events, which we dreaded, but we needed them for our income.
Yeah. We don't. By the way, we don't have Germans. We don't allow Germans on our railway. we have spies. We have people selling tights and watches. But we don't have Germans. We actually specify, we have Americans, but we specify we don't want Germans.
Gosh, that's a new one.
Right, can I suggest we have a 5-minute comfort break now, and we come back at 20:35 for part 2?
Certainly.
Okay.
See you all in about 7 minutes.
I'll switch off the recording till we start again.
Okay. Thanks.